We're following that breaking news out of Cambria County. You're looking at the effort to retrieve the bodies of 5 babies believed to be buried at the Cambria County-owned cemetery there in Ebensburg. Today, County Coroner Jeff Lees is working to solve a mystery and perhaps put closure on a dark moment in Cambria County's history. He tells us this operation is to recover the remains of the babies, 3 of whom were determined to have been murdered by their own mother in Gallitzin nearly 95 years ago. It's a story that shocked our area and the country when it first broke back in 1980. Investigators say Stella Williamson killed her children in the 1920s and 30s. Immediately after her death in 1980, a letter was discovered where she confessed to killing the children. Her note led state police to a trunk in her attic where the bodies were stored. The bodies were flown to Philadelphia, where an anthropologist examined the remains to determine the cause of death. The bodies were then brought back to Cambria County for burial. At least that's what officials in Cambria County thought. Yeah, we're learning 2 skulls were not returned and recently discovered at a museum in Philadelphia. Their trip back to Cambria County is where our team coverage begins of a final rest, the Gallitzin baby murders. We'll have a look back at the history of the case from our Jonathan O'Halloran. And we'll hear from Emily Marinas. She has more on how the Mutter Museum recently discovered the skulls in their possession. But first, Brock Owens is live at the cemetery where teams work to uncover the remains today. Brock, what did County Coroner Jeff Lees tell you?
Jen and Sean, nothing but brick, sewage piping, and more questions than answers. That's what Cambria County Coroner Jeff Lees says was in the hole that was dug up behind me in Potter's Field. It was a 30 by 30 foot hole where they were looking for the baby remains before deciding to stop looking and burying the 2 skulls of the babies recently discovered. After the 5 babies were discovered in 1980 and sent for an autopsy in Philadelphia, they were thought to have been sent back and buried in Laurel United Cemetery in Cambria Township. That's where the county coroner's office and anthropology team from Mercyhurst University, an experienced backhoe operator, and Cambria County Box 11 were set up today, hoping to reunite the babies. Lee says they dug 5 feet into the ground all around the area the pine box with the remains was expected to be before making the call to stop looking. The anthropologist says there are no indications in the area that show any signs that there was anything buried there. Lee says it's disappointing to not be able to reunite the babies, but the 2 skulls were buried at the site.
You know, it wasn't an easy decision, but it was one that I had to make the stop. If something ever turns up, you know, you can guarantee you that I can guarantee you we'll be back here doing it properly.
And once again, not only were there no remains able to be recovered in this field, but there were no indications, according to officials, that there was ever a burial, and there were no indications made in that dirt that something had been buried in that area ever. Live in Cambria County, Brock Owens, 6 News.
Thanks, Brock. As we mentioned, this story went national when it broke in 1980. Jonathan O'Halloran takes us back to what happened in Gallitzin that led to the discovery of the mummified remains of 5 infants.
A gruesome story spanning nearly a century brings us to Cambria County's Richland Cemetery. It's not until 1980, when Stella Williamson's life ends, that the story of the Gallitzin baby murders begins. August 25, 1980, 76-year-old Stella Williamson dies of natural causes in her lifelong home along Forest Street in Gallitzin. Stella was described as a loner who mainly kept to herself. She was a churchgoer, and townspeople remembered her fondly. Following her funeral, family friend Guy Schrack, who was boarding in the family home, is tasked with handling Stella's affairs. It's then that he finds a sealed letter.
He is indicated as the receiver of her property. In looking through her stuff, it was incidental that he run across this letter that said was to be opened after her death and burial.
In part, the letter written in early 1960 reads, "I want to make things right if anything should happen to me. In the attic in an old trunk, you will find babies I had. How I got away with it, I don't know, but I did so I don't want anyone else to be blamed for something they know nothing about. I have lived a good life since, so as God is my judge, this is the truth. Please forgive me if you can. Stella." The letter led investigators to find the mummified remains of 5 infants, all under the age of 1, wrapped in newspaper that was dated from 1925 to 1933. Soon, newspapers and media outlets from San Francisco to New York City pick up the story, and the small town of Gallitzin is thrust into the national spotlight. The remains, seen here being loaded into a state police helicopter, was taken east to be examined by some of the most renowned scientists of their time.
At the present time, we're leaving for Philadelphia, the medical examiner's office under Dr. Fillinger, who's going to be one of the forensic pathologists. And then also we're going to get a hold of Milton Krugman, who will also be taking care of the anthropology work.
While awaiting the results of their report, Coroner John Barron gives 6 News a hint as to what's to come.
What about manner of death?
At this time, it does not look like they will be all natural deaths.
It's revealed by the investigators at least 3 of the babies were strangled. The material they say she used still on their necks. They ranged from 5 to 9 months old. The deaths of the other 2 children, believed to be newborns, was never conclusively determined. Following their report, Dr. Halbert Fillinger and Dr. Wilton Krogman returned the sealed remains from Philadelphia to Cambria County, where they're laid to rest in an unmarked grave. The news shocked the community of Gallitzin, sending the public reeling as national news and our then 6 News reporter John McClintock descended upon the town.
When the initial shockwave passed over the village of Gallitzin, it had many residents talking and wondering, trying to figure out what on earth had happened with the 5 babies in the trunk.
How does a woman who by all accounts was well regarded in her church community and by those who knew her commit such horrific tragedies? It's a question community members had a hard time answering.
This was as much of a total shock to him as it has been to any of the rest of us or her neighbors that have known her all her life.
Well, she was a very nice woman, very friendly woman. I just don't know. I can't believe this could happen because she was so nice.
The only evidence of what happened in the attic along Forest Street remains the letter that Stella left behind.
There are going to be some facts I can say right now that we'll never know, and no one is ever going to know.
The story began here in the 1920s and gained the public's attention in 1980.
But apparently, this is a story that may now have a final page. In Gallitzin, Jonathan O'Halloran, 6 News.
The Mutter Museum in Philadelphia features medical displays and is well known for its displays of real human body parts.
Recently, a writer working for the New Yorker magazine reported on the growing questions about the legitimacy of the museum's collection and the way it receives them.
When Coroner Lees was asked today if there would be further investigation into how the museum got the remains, Lees had this to say.
Yes. Yeah. You know, our office is reviewing records from this museum.
Our Emily Marinas is asking questions today many have been asking.
One of which is, why did the museum still have these skulls from the Williamson murders? Emily?
Yeah, Sean, Mutter Museum declined to interview today. Instead, they issued a statement explaining how they discovered the baby skulls were in their possession. But first, a little more about the museum's collection. Mutter Museum in Philadelphia uses the tagline "disturbingly informative" to allude to the various exhibits of human remains. The museum is known to be extremely controversial, receiving criticism regarding the ethics of its exhibits. Now, regarding the case of the Gallitzin babies, museum officials say that they discovered the remains during a comprehensive audit of their collection of over 35,000 items. They say the audit began 3 years ago and is ongoing. In December of 2024, Cambria County Coroner Jeff Lees says his office was contacted by the museum. He has since recovered the 2 infant remains and is now reviewing documents received from the Mutter Museum. He says that the coroner's office spoke with former Cambria County Coroner John Barron and says that this was in no way, shape, or form authorized to happen. Museum officials say that the remains were never accessioned into the museum collection, and they were unaware of their existence prior to the audit. Mutter Museum's parent, the College of Physicians of Philadelphia, said today that during the audit, quote, our researchers discovered the mummified heads of 2 infants. These remains were transferred to the museum in 1999 as part of a donation from the late Dr. Halbert Fillinger, an esteemed forensic analysis. Museum officials say that their highest priority is the safe and respectful treatment of all human remains. Lee says that officials have just as many questions as the public and are hoping to get to the bottom of things. Live in the studio, Emily Marinas, 6 News.
Much more to this story, so stay with us as we continue to follow the story as investigators work to unravel the mystery surrounding the case and those babies' final rests.
You can read more about the Stella Williamson case and what investigators are saying about it on our website, WJACTV.com. And let us know what you remember about the case by heading to our Facebook page.